Hello, my name is Drew Cleveland. I'm a social media manager with Sage Care Management. And today we have Joe Braley with us to share his experience working with Sage Care Management. Joe, thank you for joining us
Morning.
and welcome.
Yeah, good to be here.
Firstly, before we get into kind of your experience with Sage, you said that you had been a long-term executive in the health benefits field.
Yeah, so I've got almost 4 decades, if you can believe that. At this
Yeah.
point, must have started when I was five. Um, so I've had a long involvement in my professional career in the benefits space, meaning working with employers on the health insurance that they provide to their employees. But as we'll get to in the rest of this conversation, that always dealt with active employees, not folks that were of Medicare and retirement age like my mom. And hence some of the requirements and needs that we had to connect with somebody like Sage Care Management.
Nice, great. So what led you to seek out a care management company? What were the difficulties that you found yourself facing that caused you to realize that you might need something like a care management company?
There's multiple reasons, and I think my story will probably sound like lots of others that have find themselves in our situation. Kind of in that sandwich position between our children getting done with college and trying to launch into their adult lives while we're dealing with our elderly parents. And I specifically have um, a mother that is 87 years old. She suffers from dementia. Um, and over the last few years, she has begun to have a changing profile of needs and an even greater inability to address them herself at a personal level. But I would say that the biggest challenge that I and my three siblings faced when trying to figure out the appropriate way to best care for our mother was it's probably threefold. One, we don't know what we don't know, right? So we really did not have a lot of understanding and knowledge about where we could find appropriate information about either what's covered through things like Medicare or through a Medicare Advantage plan like my mom was on. Secondly, we were really at a loss to understand how to best navigate the entire ecosystem. So not only did we know that we didn't have the appropriate knowledge, we were struggling to figure out where are we going to go to get the knowledge because like others, we get on the internet and suddenly find ourselves swamped with tons of information and some concern as to whether we're even looking at the appropriate and accurate types of sites. And then last but not least, as you might imagine, with four children, our mom's kids are spread across the country, and it can be a little difficult for us all to get together effectively and to try to figure out what the best and next steps are. And you got four different sets of opinions as well. So I think the usual kinds of challenges that folks face: lack of information, lack of understanding about where to go to get that information, and then how do you find a trusted source that you think is really going to be able to synthesize all that information for you. And that was really what motivated us to find a company like Sage.
What would you say made you decide to contact Sage Care Management in particular? I mean, I'm sure there were other options. There are other kind of avenues that you could have taken with regard to your specific needs. What was it about Sage that you said, I'm going to give him a call?
Well, candidly, it was the significant number of times that Sage's name came up from the trusted advisors that I started to work with.
Yeah.
Each of the four of us has a different kind of area that we're responsible for in the care of our mother. With my experience in the industry, mine was to take care of insurance and kind of the assisted living situations, just because of my familiarity with these through tangentially my connection and my executive role. But Sage came through as the highest recommended group from multiple sources. Specifically for us, a very well respected insurance broker in town that helped folks with trying to figure out what to do once folks reached Medicare stage. We also had recommendation of Sage by the gerontologist that my mother used at her Medicare Advantage plan. And then there were two other areas. We had a financial planner that we did quite a bit of work with for my mother's finances that also had Sage on the list. And last but not least, we got a connection in the social services area in San Antonio. So a pretty wide range of professional areas that all had Sage on their list. And in fact, Sage was the only place that was common to all of them. And it, because it leapt out at us through our area of trusted resources, kind of showed me two things. One, that, they've been doing this for a long time and have a wide reach. But secondly, they really have become a trusted advisor across a really wide range of ways that folks think about what they have to do to take care of either, their own family situation or specifically the elderly.
So getting more into kind of your experience with the care management side of things with Sage, can you speak a little bit about what kind of difference Sage's services made in your life, in that of your family? What difference did that make for you?
I was thinking about this a little before, jumping on here together with you for this conversation. And what came to mind to me is what I would call the 3 C's. So for the 4 kids, there were 3 things that very specifically came out of our interaction with Sage, which is what we were hoping for, needing, and absolutely got from them. And those 3 C's would be comfort, control, and confidence. So first, there was a tremendous comfort that we got from knowing that we had finally reached an organization that was going to help us with the navigation and the sorting through of the appropriate information. We worked with Byron Cordes. He did a remarkable job in a joint video call with all 4 siblings from 4 different parts of the country, was able to effectively herd those cats and get us to an understanding of what the differences were between the Medicare Advantage plans, between the Medicare plans themselves, how those coverages tie back to what's happening directly with the care for our mother. And then he had an encyclopedic knowledge of what the options were that were available in the greater San Antonio area. And that included where we had our mom currently, which was a very well-known and large corporate-based assisted living facility, as well as some of the other sources and options that they introduced us to. So first, it gave us real comfort that we were finally gaining the understanding that we needed. Secondly, the conversation felt like we gained some control over the situation, because it really did feel like we had very little agency in trying to understand where to go and how to do this. When we interacted with the assisted living place that we had had our mom in for several years prior to that, it always felt a little challenging to make sure that, we were being given all of the full and complete picture of what the options could be, up to and including maybe being in a different type of setting than where she was at that time. And then lastly, by the time we were done with our initial long conversation over video, we were able to then communicate back and forth with Byron with some of the suggestions that he had, which left us with a lot of confidence that by the time we had created a plan, we were really moving in the right direction in a way that was going to take care of not only our mom, but also, what we wanted to make sure was happening as her adult children. Drew, I'd put it to you as simple as this. What we really needed to know and got out of our interaction with Sage was what's available, what's possible, and what's doable for our specific family situation. And by taking us down that path of fully understanding what's actually available in the ecosystem, next, which of these sound like they might be the right types of options? Lastly, out of the multiple ones that we came to that conclusion, which one's the right one to really do for our mom ourselves? And that was just a remarkably valuable process to us, to all 4 kids.
For people that are seeking help, for people that are looking for an answer to the problems they have, the questions they have about navigating the healthcare system, health benefits, even just solutions for taking care of their mom. What would you say is the single most important thing Sage has to offer to its clients, to somebody who is completely unfamiliar with any of this, might be looking for help?
Well, there's such a wide range, but if I had to really kind of narrow it down, I would say that they had a incredibly strong and equal combination of tangible, doable solutions that they could share with us, along with a tremendous level of emotional support for the four of us as we went through the understanding of how to get to that final action plan. And that combination of the empathy and compassion that they had for, immediately our mother and the conversations that we had, as well as an understanding of what the perspective was like and how different it is for us as the kids working to try to do that on behalf of our mother, especially one with dementia. There was just a tremendous combination between the, specifics of developing a plan, but also doing so in such a strong way that evoked and then acted upon the emotional status for the four of us individually and as a group. And I think that kind of combination of the personal with the professional was what really made Sage Care Management's approach stand out to all of us.
Anything else you want people to know about your time with Sage or your experience with the staff or the company that you feel you haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, you bet. Again, I would really emphasize that as this is an area that, again, like us, you can come to, and it's quite, it's very common that you don't have a lot of basic understanding. Finding that group that is going to both, care about individually the folks that they're working with on behalf of an elderly patient, the elderly patient themselves, but doing so in a way that really does feel like, there's a level of confidence and control that we can gain through that interaction. I think that's the most important part. It's really the empathy and the personal approach. The professional side is nails. We're working with Byron. Boy, he just absolutely understands the regulatory environment, the actual delivery of care environment. He's deeply aware of where the resources are. And, I guess I'd sum it up in this way. The punchline at the end of all of this is we weren't even aware that there were such things as private care homes where someone like our mother with the level of dementia that she had can be part of a small community in a private house in a neighborhood setting, something she's used to and where she came from, and that was even feasible. And then secondarily, that the way that the home we ended up choosing that we were led to by Sage was actually a dramatically better fit than the larger corporate kind of setting that she had been in before. And as just a complete bonus, it turns out that this solution that had a greater level of care was also less expensive than where we had our mother at the time, which is, just kind of an overall bonus. Wasn't necessarily what we were searching for, but a very positive outcome for us as well. So the fact that we weren't even aware that that existed to where she has now been transitioned to that place and is dramatically happier and, has a better quality of life because of that transition says it all. If there's any regret that we have with our time with Sage, it's that we didn't find you guys 2 years earlier.
That's good to hear. Thank you for saying that.
You guys feel like more a part of the family than an advisor at this point. Again, I would at the end of this also point out that this transition that we made and ended up moving our mom happened within 2 weeks of our original outreach to you folks. So the point was that the process, the ability to hold our hand and help us through that, but also the urgency with which we wanted to be acting was something that Byron and the rest of the team were just absolutely Johnny on the spot. We're completely available to our time schedules and change time zones that multiple folks were in. So, just the quick understanding of what the needs were for the family and a willingness and a knowledge to know how to act in a fast manner in that way was also something that was very impressive with us. But since then, we've had multiple times and outreaches from other members of your team just to make sure things are going well within the household. And that kind of, again, ongoing empathy and connectivity is both surprising in today's business world and deeply welcomed.
Thank you. And Joe Braley, thank you for taking the time to chat with us. We really appreciate it.
You are more than welcome. And thanks so much for the compassion and concern that you guys help bring in the solutions for our mom.
All right. Well, thank you. And for those of you watching, give us a call if you need help or if you're looking for guidance in taking care of someone you love.
It's the best call you'll ever make.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Drew.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.